Arena in Baltimore. All set for tonight's American Hockey League interdivisional encounter, featuring the two last-place teams in their respective divisions. The 7th place Baltimore Skipjacks of the Southern Division. The 7th place Maine Mariners of the Northern Division. The referee tonight is Lance Roberts. The linesman Gary Madsen and Rick Zerby. The starting line is in goal to our left, the former skipjack, Roberto Romano. He is winless in his last 4 starts. Romano on the season is 3-7. This is his 12th game and a goals against average of 3.84. Terry Taliver, the rookie from Boston College, will be the backup tonight. Bill Ranford, one of 4 Mariners, returned back to Portland, Maine today due to the flu. On the defense will be Elaine Cote along with Dale Dunbar. The forward line, the Mariners' leading scorer on left wing, Taylor Hall. At center, the former RPI standout, Craig Nienhaus. And on right wing will be Dave Reed. Not in the Mariners lineup tonight, defenseman Gord Hines, center Ray Podlosky, right wing Alan May, center Mike Stevens, goaltender Bill Ranford, all felled by the flu. For the Jacks, in goal to our right, returning after a brief one-game absence due to a slight hamstring injury, Murray Bannerman. Bannerman's 9th game, a record of 1-4-2, goals against a 4.11. Royden Gunn, the backup. Scott Gordon deactivated. The forward line starting on the defense for the Jacks tonight will be Tim Hoover, along with Wayne Gagne, the forward line of Ernie Vargas on left wing. Alfie Turcotte at center, the league's 8th leading scorer. Doug Shedden on right wing. Sean Dedeen, Britt Peer, Keith Miller, Scott Gordon, not in the Jacks lineup tonight. Before tonight's game, Jackson, Maine, our national anthem. National anthem. The site is the Baltimore Arena in Baltimore. We're all set for first period action. The Skipjacks and Maine. The Mariners are 7-12-4. Jacks 1-23-3, losing the first 3 of this extended 6-game homestand that will continue with Game 5 Sunday night at 7 here at the Baltimore Arena against Sherbrooke. Jacks will be idle on both Friday and Saturday nights. The referee tonight is Lance Roberts, linesman Gary Madsen, and Rick Zerby. Roberto Romano, the former Skipjack, in goal to our left for Maine, and Murray Bannerman in goal to our right for the Jacks. It'll be Alfie Turcotte, blanked in his last 2 games after a 12-game scoring streak, which ranked 3rd best thus far this season in the circuit, opposing the Mariners' Dave Reed. From the face-off, Reed pokes it to the Baltimore line, skidded off by Hoover on the left defense, covering in front of the goal, Alfie Turcotte. Turcotte up on right wing at center for Shedden. Now Doug Shedden. Wheels center circle, throw it in behind the main goal. Hurrying after it is Cote in pursuit. Vargas, he sheds the Vargas check right in front of the goal, cracked by Shedden. It skids across to the right wing boards, and Cote at his own line fires it to the goaltender Bannerman, who drove it to the line. Reed's shot was marshmallowy, halted in front by Hoover. Hoover up the right boards at center for Turcotte, dashing it over the main line, leaving it right circle for Shedden with a shot. Kicked out by Romano, with Vargas really crashing the crease. Puck in behind the Marionite goal. Covering is their captain, Blake Wesley. Wesley, the former Newmarket Saint, from center circle. Whipped it in behind the Baltimore goal. Bannerman himself ladles it up on right wing for the newcomer, Steve Sigam, banking it off the boards at center for Perkins. Over the main line, right in front for Toomey with a shot. Scores! Sean Toomey, Jacks lead 1-0. Impeccable arrangement from Terry Perkins, and Toomey installed on that left side with Perkins and Sagan by GM coach Gene Ubriaco, and he sizzles his 13th of the season at 101. The 15th time this season the Jacks have generated the game's opening goal. It'll be Toomey from Perkins, and probably that's the lone assist. We'll see if they add a second one. Toomey from Perkins at 101. Sean Toomey's 13th, 1-0 Jacks. Now Scott Harlow springs to center at the main line on right wing for Lomo. Lomo in the circle, checked by Schubaden up the boards at center for Beraldo. Over the Baltimore line, left circle, Beraldo fired. Bannerman the save. Rebound right side of the goal for Harlow. He drove it around the left wing boards for Lomo. Lomo crunches, Schubaden pinching in from the point. Lomo couldn't clear the zone at the right point. Beraldo the shot, saved by Bannerman. Back come the Jacks. Richer on right wing at center, fire. That was high and wide. Rebound to the left boards for Meitner, firing. Knocked down by Reed. Comes back to Meitner in the corner. Wrapped up by Cote, corralled by Reed. Clearing to the line, seized by Turcotte. Turcotte behind the goal for Shedden. Shedden delivers to the left boards for Vargas. He couldn't get there in time. Checked by Hall, who clears to center. Alfie Turcotte in the middle of the ice. Jitterbugs in over the main line, swerving through the right circle, right in front for Shedden. Checked by Reed. Back comes Maine. Hall on left wing at center. Taylor Hall steps in over the Baltimore line. Checked by Kennedy. Now by Bob Kennedy at center at the main line on the right boards for Turcotte. Skated off by Nienaus. Back comes Maine. Hall at his own line up on right wing at center for Cote, crossing the Baltimore line. Thumped by Shedden. On the left boards, Ian Armstrong floats it into Maine territory. Both teams changing as Dale Dunbar controls behind the goal. Leads on left wing in his own line for Nienaus, guiding it to center zone. Gagne controls, reaching the main line. Wayne Gagne right in front for Perkins. He fired! Romano the save. Rebound left circle. Shedden centered one for Toomey in front. That was blocked on the defense by Dunbar, who sends Carter on his way on right wing at center. Over the Baltimore line, right circle. Upended by Hoover. The two tumble into the Baltimore backboards, and I think John Carter is sitting on top of the puck at the backboards. No further play. 16:49 left, first period. The Jacks jolting Maine with an early thrust. Sean Toomey, the sharpshooter from Terry Perkins at 101. Perkins stretching his latest scoring streak to 4 games with his 7th point in that span. 2 goals, 5 assists for the transplanted center, who has scored 15 goals, his team high 15 goals in the last 20 games. He was without a goal in his first 7 games. From the face-off, puck wiggles into the right corner. Wayne Crawford, the former Kalamazoo wing, tried to center one. Blocked by Perkins at center for Sagan. Off balance, he failed to control as he reached the main line. Covering in front of the Mariners goal, Johnston. Leaned on by Perkins. He leaves in the right circle for Campbell. Wade Campbell in the middle at center for Carter, steering into the Baltimore zone. Covering up Sagan. Leaves it in front of the goal for Perkins, dropping back. He just clears to the main line. Control by Campbell in the middle at center for Carter. He was thumped by Gagne. Puck skips in behind the Baltimore goal. Digging in after it is Greg Johnson. Poked away from him by the long reach of Banner into the left boards for Toomey. Toomey at his own line for Perkins, sweeping into the Maine territory. Jacks changing. Rounding the main net with it is Bruce Schubaden. Schubaden, the former LA King, twisting and turning his way on right wing at center. Drove it around the Baltimore backboards all the way to the left side, where it's wrapped in behind the goal by Jeff Lamb. Now Lamb directed around the backboards. His pass was swept away at the Baltimore left boards to center by Harlow. Controlled at center zone by the Mariners. At center, Jeff Lamb, the former Denver University standout, heads into the Baltimore line. He tried to leave one in the right circle for Beraldo. Paul Beraldo scoops in behind the goal, evading the check of James. He centered it all the way to the right point for John Blum. The former Washington Capital pokes it into the right corner for Beraldo, rolling it in front, and Richer was there. Now Richer for the Jacks in the middle at center for Charlie Meitner. Leaving for Richer. Oh, the main line on the left boards for Lomo, off his stick and behind the goal. Lamb was checked there by Harlow, lying in white. But covering up left side of the goal is Schubaden, clearing to center. Bob Kennedy for the Jacks on the right side. Wrapped it right back in behind the main goal where Blum rounds the net. John Blum in front of the goal. Skirts the check of Lomo. Now Blum on right wing at center for Beraldo. Checked by Armstrong, forcing the issue high. It skids to the Baltimore line, controlled by Kennedy. Bob Kennedy banked it off the right wing boards into the main zone. Controlled it there, line by Hall on right wing. Across on left wing at center for Dave Reed at the Baltimore line. Checked in his tracks by Turcotte, who steals. Turcotte at center for Shedden. Doug Shedden barrels in over the main line. He tried to leave it in the right circle for Turcotte, who was wide open. Turcotte failed to reach it. Back come the Mariners. At center, Hall at the Baltimore line, shooting, and Bannerman kicks it over the glass into the crowd. No further play. A break in the action. Jacks 1, Maine nothing on the Skipjacks Hockey Network. Now from the faceoff on the right point, Cote loads his gun, fires. That was wide to the short side. Rebound behind the goal. At the backboards, they jostle for it vigorously. Hall squeezed by Hoover. Now Hoover at the backboards, leaves it behind the goal for Alfie Turcotte, and the Jacks are away. Turcotte on left wing at center for Vargas, hitting the main line, firing, and that was wide. Rebound behind the goal. Control by Shedden, centering one. And Hall stepped in front of Hoover, pinching it from the point. Hall at center on left wing for Nienaus, who drove it into the Baltimore left corner. Doug Shedden controls. Now Shedden's pass behind the goal for Hoover. Hoover at the backboard, surrounded by Nienaus and Hall, who spilled him, but covering up in the right corner, Gagne. Now Wayne Gagne's clearing pass, deflected off Reed to the main line. Controlled on the defense there by Wesley. Action halted, though. I think the Jacks were offside on a delay, as Blake Wesley and Doug Shedden were tangling right at the main line across the way from us on the Jacks right wing. 13:32 left, opening period, and the Jacks have gained an early lead at 101. Sean Toomey's 13th from Terry Perkins. The 15th time this season the Jacks have engineered the game's opening goal. They're only 1-12-1, though, this season when they accomplished the feat. Now from the faceoff, Wayne Crawford on right wing at center for Campbell, drove it to the Baltimore line, halted right there by Toomey. Toomey on the left boards, jammed by Johnson, but covering is Val James. James at his own line for Perkins. He just nudged that one ahead on left wing at center for Toomey. Knocked away by Johnston to his own line for Campbell on the right defense. Wade Campbell sends it aimlessly into open wing. Controlling along the Jacks left wing boards by Val James. Up the boards at center for Perkins. Perkins at the main line, wheels across to the right boards, undressed to the puck by Campbell. Wade Campbell on left wing at center, fired. Bannerman guides it with the waffle board to the right boards, where it's handled by Sagan. Jacks away. Steve Sagan in the middle at center for Perkins, romping it over the main line. Right in front for Sagan with a shot, and Romano the save, deflecting it over the glass into the crowd. No further play, as Terry Perkins and Steve Sagan that time were roaring in over the main line. And Perkins feathered it with a velvet touch, and Sagan was behind the defense as he was barging in on right wing. And Romano just barely got his catching glove on that one, deflecting it over the glass into the crowd. The face-off forthcoming. Circle left of the former Skipjack goaltender. 12:39 left, opening period. Shots on goal even. Steven for a side. Jacks on top, 1-0. Scott Harlow moved to center tonight. In the face-off with Dave Reed. Won by Harlow, top of the circle. Meitner was bowled over by Hall before he could squeeze the trigger. It squirms in behind the goal. Harlow centers it right in front. Meitner fired, but the net had been lifted from its moorings after Byron Lomo was deposited onto the side of the net by a hefty check from John Blum, the former Washington Capitals defenseman. And that brings action to an abrupt halt and will produce a face-off. Circle left of Romano in the main goal. John Blum was obtained by the Washington Capitals in the waiver draft a year ago. Boston reacquired him in the waiver draft from the Caps this year, and he's been assigned to Maine, and he has the puck behind his own goal. Blum up on right wing for Driscoll, the rookie from Princeton. Peter Driscoll, rink wide to left wing at center. Reed off his stick into the Baltimore zone. Kennedy controls that. Now Bob Kennedy at center for Byron Lomo at the main line on right wing. Lomo fired. Oh, Romano, the pad save falling backwards. Rebound to the right boards is sent to center by Reed. From center zone, Ian Armstrong on left wing. Drove it back behind the main goal. Controlled by Schubert. On right wing at his own line for Driscoll. He drifts it to the Baltimore line. Kennedy comes across on the left defense. Up the boards, Kennedy. At center circle. Wrapped it in behind the goal for the Jacks. Romano setting up for Blum, circling the net. Now John Blum at his own line. He wheels across on left wing at center, crossing the Baltimore line. Hooked off his stick back to center by Hoover, forcing the issue. Controlled at center zone on right wing by Beraldo. Snapping it around the Baltimore backboards. All the way in the left corner for Jeff Lamb. Centering it. Camazola fired. Stick save. Bannerman sweeping the rebound away from Beraldo at the crease. Controlled on the Jacks left boards at their own line by Alfie Turcotte. Up the boards for Vargas. Now Ernie Vargas at center. Skated off by Lamb. Controlled by Maine's Camazola on right wing at center. Spilled by Turcotte. Shedden bursts into the main line, right circle. Shooting, and he hit the side of the net. As Shedden that time really charged it on right wing. Shedden has the rebound behind the goal, rolling it in front. It didn't reach Turcotte. Stepping in front of it was Dunbar to clear to center. Controlled by Vargas for Turcotte at the main line, right through his legs on left wing for Jeff Lamb. And Lamb at the center red line on right wing. Strokes it in behind the Jacks goal, covering Gagne. Continuous action, 10:47 for the period. As Gagne headmans it on right wing at center for Shedden. Shedden floats it in front of the main goal, halted there by Johnston, clearing to the Baltimore line. Gagne controls on left wing. Wayne Gagne springs to center over the main line on the right side, pulling up on the blue line. Into the circle for Shedden. The backhander struck Turcotte, screening in front. Deflects to the left corner for Toomey, who drifts it in behind the goal instead. Covering there is Wesley as he collides with Gagne, pinching in from the right point in the corner to fire it down ice. Val James barely outdistances Greg Johnston at a rising rooster, tailing residue behind the Baltimore goal to reach it. And Maine is charged with icing. A break in the action, 10:17 left, opening period. Jacks 1, Maine nothing on the Skipjacks Hockey Network. Now from the face-off, puck in behind the main goal. Perkins seizes it. Terry Perkins centers it into the crease. Knocked back behind the goal by Romano from the short side. Covering up for Maine is John Carter. Carter at his own line on left wing at center for Crawford. Beyond him all the way to the goaltender, Bannerman. Bannerman's pass knocked down left corner by Greg Johnston. Now Johnston delivers it on the redirect behind the goal for Carter, and James was there. James around the boards on left wing at his own line for Toomey. Across on right wing at center for Seguin. Beyond him, behind the main goal. Romano steps out of the goal. Lost control to Seguin. Right in front for Perkins. The backhander right through the crease to the right boards for Seguin. Leaving in the circle for Perkins. Now Terry Perkins. Center point for Richer. Richer wheels across to the left boards, delivering it behind the goal for Seguin. Hooked off his stick by Cote. Now Sylvain Cote just drove it to center zone. Controlled by Sean Toomey on left wing, floating it back in front of the main goal, gobbled up by Cote. Now Cote at center, hits the Baltimore line on left wing, backhanding behind the goal. Bannerman himself will paddle it in the right corner for Scott Harlow. Now Harlow around the boards on left wing for Charlie Meitner. Meitner left it on the boards for Kennedy. Kennedy falling to the ice, steers to the main zone. Covering on the left defense, Wesley across to the right boards for Nienhuis, peeling back. Nienhuis in front of Harlow, around the backboards on left wing, back for Wesley at his own line. And Blake Wesley inadvertently sends the puck showering into the Skipjacks penalty box at center ice across the way from us. No further play. 8:46 left. First period, the Sean Toomey goal, the sole goal thus far. No penalties to scar the stanza. Toomey's 13th from Terry Perkins at 1:01. Toomey, incidentally, now has 9 points in his last 6 games on 3 goals and 6 assists. Face-off rim of the circle left of Romano. Main goal. Harlow won it. Center point. Armstrong shoots. That was just wide. Rebound to the right wing boards for Blum. Up the boards at center for Taylor Hall, sending it in behind the Jacks goal. Bannerman out of the goal, flings it around the left boards for Meitner. At his own line for Harlow, jacks away. Scott Harlow on right wing at center for Lomo. He couldn't catch up with it at the main line. At center zone, though, Harlow trails the play. Just outside the Mariner line, he drove it to their right circle. Blum will control that in the middle sharply at center for Dave Reed at the Baltimore line. Intimidated by Armstrong, who steals, sending Harlow in over the main line. Scott Harlow wheels across to the left boards. Drove it into the corner for Armstrong. Vargas is there instead, but Reed is there to ride him off. Puck into the right wing corner. Charging after it along the boards is Vargas. Vargas was checked there by Blum, and away goes Maine. Reed at center over the Baltimore line for Taylor Hall. Hall wheels in the left circle. Fired, and that was wide. Rebound behind the goal for Hoover. Tim Hoover leads on left wing at his own line for Harlow. Across on right wing at center for Ernie Vargas. Barreling in over the main line. Forced wide of the boards neatly by Dunbar, who crunched him in the corner as Shedden goes sprawling into the main crease from the check by the Mariners defenseman Dale Dunbar, lifting the right goalpost from its moorings. No further play. 7:37 remaining in the opening period. 1-0 Jackson. They've outshot the Mariners 6-5. No penalties to mar the period. Want to remind you, we will be guesting with our Skipjack fan of the game. That's coming up at our first intermission tonight. After tonight, the Jacks will be idle until Sunday night with their second and final game of the week right here at the Baltimore Arena, 7 o'clock assignment with their brethren from Sherbrooke. From the faceoff, Vargas at the main line on left wing. Drove it in behind the goal as Lamb upended Turcotte at the line. Covering up in front of the main goal is Dunbar. Dunbar at center for Jeff Lamb. He darts it over the Baltimore line, pulls up, shoots. Hoover deflects it into the corner. Digging it on the left side, Camazola. He was wrapped up by Gagne. Controlled in the Jacks' right circle by Shedden, and away go the Jacks. Shedden on left wing at center for Vargas, romping in over the main line. Forced wide of the boards by Campbell, who pinned him. Dug out to the side of the goal by Dunbar. Now Dale Dunbar for Maine in the middle at center for Camazola at the Baltimore line, and right wing for Beraldo, leaving it top of the circle for Camazola. The screen backhander right on. Bannerman the save. He sweeps the rebound to the right boards where Shedden does a spinorama, clearing to center. Shoebottom from center, fired. Bannerman the pad save. Rebound in the left circle for Turcotte. Snapping it across on right wing at center for Shedden, who wraps that dancing puck in behind the main goal where Cote rounds the main net. Now Cote on right wing at center for Carter over the Baltimore line, skidded off by Toomey and sent to center by Val James. At center zone lane, Cote's pass stolen by Toomey. Sean Toomey explodes in over the main line, left circle. Checked from behind by Shoebottom, and Toomey controls it. He whirls right in front for Sagan, the crease. A great save by Romano. Rebound right corner for Steve Sagan, rolling it in front. Cote is there. Alain Cote circling in the left circle, stalked and hucked by Perkins. Cote up the left boards for Crawford, who just clears it to center zone. Controlled again by Cote on right wing. He drove it to the Baltimore line, knocked down by Val James. James on left wing at center, sends the puck wiggling to the side of the main goal. 5:50 for the period. Both teams change. Greg Johnson at his own line on right wing for Maine, backhanding to center, where Ian Armstrong on left wing whistles it right back into the main left wing corner. Covering up is Bruce Shoebottom. Shoebottom up the boards at his own line. His pass seized at center by Lomo, who stepped on. Lomo sails it back into the main right wing corner. Cote controls with a clearing pass up the middle at center for Reed. Over the Baltimore line, right circle for Johnston with a shot kicked out by Bannerman. Johnson with the rebound in the corner, centered one. Blocked in front by Harlow. Scott Harlow up the boards at center for Byron Lomo on left wing. Leaving it for the trailer, Meitner at the main line. Checked by Hall, who steals. Hall at center, zooming in over the Baltimore line, right circle, firing, kicked out by Bannerman. Rebound behind the goal for Reed, right in front for Nienhaus. He fired it wide. A tantalizing rebound in front. And Charlie Meitner is there to clear to the main line. Controlled by John Blum on right wing at center. At the Baltimore line for Reed. Thumped by Kennedy. Rudely sent tumbling by Armstrong. Armstrong at center for Meitner. Meitner back for Lomo and back for Meitner. He had his back turned to the play. At center zone, the shot by Nienhaus. Bannerman the save. The rebound is right in front. Oh, and Harlow stripped it off the stick of Hall brilliantly. He just overpowered him. Puck along the boards, though. Digging it out is Lamb on the right side. Jeff Lamb comes off the boards, centering it. Blocked in front by Lomo. And Byron Lomo flings it off the right wing boards to the main line. Control by Wayne Campbell. Campbell on left wing at center. Stroked it around the Baltimore backboards all the way to the left side for Vargas. Backhanding to the main zone. 4:14 for the period. Continuous action. 1-0 Jacks. Campbell for Maine on the defense in the middle at center for Lamb. Seized by Turcotte. Over the main line and left wing for Vargas. Right in front for Turcotte. Shooting. Kicked out by Romano. Rebound right point for Gagne. Gagne into the circle. Tried to feather one in front for Shedden. Didn't make it through. Dunbar blocked it and clears into the Baltimore zone. Hoover controls on right wing. At his own line, whipping it down ice, touched behind the main goal by Bruce Schubottom. Jacks charged with icing, a break of the action, 3:47 left first period. Jacks 1, Maine nothing on the Skipjacks Hockey Network. Yeah, it's only 5 minutes to 8. No, they're not hitting anybody. Yeah. Obviously, we're watching the 2 last place teams in this league here tonight. Terry Ficcarelli rejoining you live from the Baltimore Arena. 3:47 left, first period, 1-0 Jacks. Sean Toomey from Terry Perkins at 1:01, the sole goal in a penalty-less period that has seen Maine outshoot the Jacks 11-9. Again, we want to remind you to stay tuned. We'll be guesting with the Skipjacks fan of the game coming up at our first intermission tonight. The Jacks this season 1-23-3. They have lost their first 3 of this extended 6-game homestand. The first one by a pair of goals, the latter 2 by scant singletons. Jacks have perished at all 8 of their 1-goal verdicts thus far this season. Maine is 3-6 in 1-goal decisions this campaign. Face-off right of Bannerman, Baltimore goal. Perkins and Carter the principals. They present arms. One by Carter. Carter on the left boards. Back to the left point for Schubottom. A high drive struck the side of the net. Rebound behind the goal. Corral by Toomey. Undressed to the puck, though, by Johnston. Side of the goal for Carter. He bolts in front with a backhander. Bannerman the save. There'll be a Jacks penalty coming up to Val James, who crashed Carter to the ice at the crease. The puck along the blue line. Contained on the right point by Reed. Now Reed into the corner for John Carter. Carter comes off the boards, top of the circle, checked by Perkins, and finally lassoed deep in the left corner by Sean Toomey. Action halted. There will be a Skipjacks holding penalty forthcoming to Val James at 16:44. The game's first penalty. Maine presented the game's first power play. Their power play is ranked 10th in the league. Only 18% conversion rating. 24 for 130. The Jacks penalty killing is still ranked last in the league, but the Jacks have only allowed 7 power play goals against in the last 42 opportunities, and that is an efficiency rating of 84%. James for holding at 16:44. Face-off circle left of Bannerman, Baltimore goal. John Carter for Maine, who played with Moncton last season. And Alfie Turcotte for the Jacks. This is Carter's first game after a 2-week absence. He's been on recall to parent club Boston. Turcotte won it. Squirms in behind the goal, but Carter seizes it. John Carter to the right point for Cote. Cote back along the boards for Carter. That one nearly handcuffed him, but he'll control it. Now Carter in the circle. Back to the right point for Cote. Back along the boards for John Carter, working on Turcotte. Carter thunders through the circle, upended beautifully by Hoover. Hoover gloved it to the top of the circle to Alfie Turcotte. And once Turcotte cradled it, the Jacks were caught on the glove pass. Referee Lance Roberts appeared out of position, but he demonstrated that he had some, shall we say, Krypton-like eyes. And he was able to espy the Tim Hoover skullduggery. 2:53 for the opening period. 1:37 for the Val James penalty, his first, and this is 4th game as a Jack. And the Jacks clinging to a 1-0 lead. Turcotte and Reed on the face-off circle left of Bannerman. Won by Turcotte. Claimed behind the goal by Gagne, sweeping it around the boards, contained on the left point by Campbell. His pass in the circle, halted by Gagne and swept to the main line by Alfie Turcotte. Alain Cote on the right defense, across on the left side for Wade Campbell, 6'4" and 220. The former Winnipeg Jet defenseman sends it into the Baltimore zone. Sean Toomey is there, and Toomey just nudged it ahead to the line to Wayne Gagne, and Gagne pirouetted, but found his clearing pass deflected over the glass into the crowd. 2:31 left, first period. Jacks 1, Maine nothing. Let's pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Baltimore Skipjacks Hockey Network. Now from the face-up in the Skipjacks right circle, it's corralled by Tim Hoover, who takes a look, finds an opening in a very patient fashion, and rifles it down ice. Coming up to a minute left for the main power play. Alain Cote in front of the goal. In the middle at center for Reed. He couldn't hold the pass. It's skidded off his stick to the Baltimore line, and Hoover again on the left defense returns it behind the main goal, and Cote again is forced deep. Now Alain Cote up the left boards at center for Reed. Knocked away neatly by an anticipating Terry Perkins. Covering up the trailer, Taylor Hall at center. Hall wheels in over the Baltimore line along the right wing boards, poking it in behind the goal for Nienhuis. Nienhuis pulls up behind the goal. Still has it, working on Gagne. Ladling it to the left boards for Campbell, who was pouring in from the point. Campbell deep in the left corner. Behind the goal for Reed. Reed along the left wing boards for Nienhuis. Nienhuis through the circle, still has it back center point for Cote. Along the right wing boards for Hall. Hall to the right point for Cote. The screen shot, Bannerman the save, and he pounces on the rebound in front of the crease. No further play. 1:25 for the period. 9 seconds for the Val James penalty. A break of the action. Jacks 1 and Maine nothing on the Skipjacks Hockey Network.
Section number 223.
Yeah.
Cheers tonight.
From the face-off right of Murray Bannerman. Puck deep in the Baltimore corner. Digging it out on the left side. In behind the goal is Jim Camazola. Now Camazola with James back on the penalty over, poking it into the left corner for Beraldo. Beraldo back to the left point. The screen shot right on. The save by Bannerman. The rebound sent to center by James. Control by Maine. Now Camazola over the Baltimore line. He wheels in front, firing, and that was just wide with a minute left of the period. Puck behind the Baltimore goal. Ian Armstrong controls across on right wing at center for Turcotte. Action halted. We have a penalty coming up, I believe. I think Ian Armstrong will be banished for the Jacks. Paul Beraldo, the rookie from Sault Ste. Marie, was also on the scene. So is the Jack Steve Seguin. I think it's going to be Seguin and Beraldo. The two were engaging in a physical debate. Both appeared to be in the mood to be wooed at the Baltimore blue line. Well, wait a minute. Yes, twin minors. Paul Beraldo will precede Seguin to the dressing room with only 50 seconds remaining in the period. Paul Beraldo, who had 90 points last season, 39 goals, 51 assists with Sault Ste. Marie. He's a first-year pro in a Boston Bruins draft. And now the Jack Steve Seguin making his debut tonight, the former Hershey Bear. And both are in receipt of minor penalties at 19-10. Will await the official call on the infraction. Perhaps high sticking or roughing. Well, Beraldo's is for slashing, and Seguin is for elbowing. So that'll be the last time that we will venture in the into conjecturing. Seguin for elbowing, Beraldo for slashing at 19-10. Neither team penalized skaters. 50 seconds for the period. Face-off center zone. Maine will control at its own line. Dale Dunbar on the left defense, shadowed by Turcotte, leaving for Carter, who had peeled back. Now Carter chased back in front of the goal by Hoover and Turcotte surrounding him. Now control by Carter at center and left wing. Carter's pass knocked away by Gagne over the main line right circle for Turcotte, shooting, and he fired it just wide as Turcotte danced right in. Back comes Maine. John Blum through center. Drifts it to the Baltimore line. Glove down in the right defense by Gagne at center for Turcotte. Bursting into the main line. Right circle. Right in front for Vargas. And it wiggled off his stick to the right boards. Vargas controls it though. Vargas along the boards for Shedden. Checked there by Carter. Carter up the left boards at center for Camisola. He just sails it into the Baltimore zone. 3 seconds remaining in the period as Murray Bannerman himself clears to center as the horn sounds, signifying the conclusion of the first period here at the Baltimore Arena. The lone goal was were harboring hopes of, had designs of, as Vargas is chased for tripping at the 30-second mark. Maine has presented its second power play of the night, the only 2 of the game thus far. The face-off forthcoming outside the main line, across the way from us on the Jacks left wing. Vargas for tripping at 30 seconds. Jacks have only allowed 7 power play goals against in the last 43 opportunities for the adversary. It'll be Lomo and Nienhuis. Another RPI standout, he and John Carter. Now Nienhuis wanted in the middle at center for Wade Campbell. He hits the Baltimore line, rolls it in on goal. Bannerman swept it away from the onrushing Craig Nienhuis to the right boards for Toomey. Checked by Reed, who steals. Reed behind the goal to the right, point for Cote. Now Alain Cote across to the left boards for Campbell, pulling up. Does a spinorama past the check of Lomo. Lomo chased him back to center point, though, where Campbell whipped it into the Baltimore left corner. Hoover with a deft touch up the boards for Toomey. Sean Toomey controls it masterfully with 2 main players surrounding him in the left circle, and Sean Toomey whistles it down ice. Covering beyond the goal is Campbell. Wade Campbell angles it up on right wing at center for Cote at the Baltimore line for Reed. Top of the left circle for Hall, the trailer pulling up on the boards. Now Taylor Hall through the circle, shoots Bannerman the save. The rebound in front, and Toomey is there again. And he fires it down ice. 1 minute for the power play. Collected behind the goal by Cote, barely a step ahead of Terry Perkins, who just came on. Now Cote will start out in the middle at center for Wayne Crawford at the Baltimore line on right wing for Johnston, pulling up along the boards at the hash mark. All the way across to the left point for Dunbar. In the left circle for Carter, shooting. Bannerman the pad save. He controls the rebound himself behind the goal. Swept it around the left boards for Perkins, who had his back to the plate. Johnston stole it from him. Center point for Cote. Back in the right wing boards for Greg Johnston. Johnston across to the left point for Dunbar. Shooting, that was wide. Rebound right corner for Carter. 20 seconds for the power play. Carter along the boards, pivots. Back to the right point for Cote. Right wing boards for John Carter. Carter centered in front. Blocked by Turcotte beautifully. And Alfie Turcotte spins and backhands down ice. We have another Baltimore penalty coming up. Maine controls at its own line as the penalty is over to Vargas. Cote at center over the Baltimore line on right wing. Action halted. We have a penalty coming up again to the Skipjacks. And the time of this penalty will be 2:34. The Skipjacks penalty box door swings open. The Ernie Vargas tripping penalty has expired. There seems to be some confusion on the penalty, which I believe is to the Baltimore goaltender, Murray Bannerman. So again, the Jacks will be shorthanded. This will be Maine's 3rd consecutive power play. They had one late in the first period, and now the Mariners are presented 2 consecutively here early in the second period. Murray Bannerman has received a 2-minute minor for slashing at 2:34. That is Bannerman's 2nd penalty of the season, and this is 9th outing. Bob Kennedy is designated to serve the penalty for the Skipjacks. The face-off will occur outside the skipjack blue line, across the way from us on the Baltimore left wing. It'll be Lomo in the face-off with Nienhuis, who controls at center circle for Dunbar. Back to his own line on the right defense for John Blum. Blum at center, wrapped it in on goal off the boards. Bannerman controls it to the right boards for Sean Toomey, and Toomey sweeps it down ice, right on goal. Romano will blockade side of the goal for Blum, leading on left wing at his own line for Reed. His pass seized at center by Toomey, backhanding back to the main line, and Blum will start out at center. John Blum, shy of the Baltimore line on right wing, wrapped it in behind the goal. Gagne is there, firing to the line. Dunbar contains on the left point. In the circle for Reed. Off his stick into the corner, and then Reed jerked down Gagne in the circle. And there will be a main hooking penalty to Dave Reed, with Craig Nienhuis in utter disgust, slamming the puck off the Baltimore corner boards. Reed, purely exasperated with his own mishandling of the pass in the left circle. The puck just dribbled off his stick, almost handcuffing him on a dizzying hop, and he just wheeled and jerked down Wayne Gagne, who was covering him in the circle. And that was a Reed penalty for Maine, purely from frustration at 3:13. So that will short-circuit Maine's third straight power play of the night after only 39 seconds. Both teams will skate a man short for a minute 21, 16:47 for the middle period. Still 1-0 Jacks. Toomey from Perkins early at 1:01 of this one tonight. Toomey's 13th. From the faceoff, inside the main line, John Blum on the right defense. Up the boards at center for Greg Johnston. That one journeyed over 2 lines. No further play. The John Blum pass emanated from inside the main blue line on the right boards, and he directed it up the boards over his own blue line to the center red line before it was accepted by right wing Greg Johnston. 16:38 left middle period, 1-0 Jacks. Faceoff will be the origination of the Blum aborted pass, barely inside the Mariner blue line, across the way from us on the skipjack left wing. Maine, of course, now wearing gold and black, the Boston Bruins team colors, after wearing orange and black for its first 10 years. Now from the face-off, control behind the main goal by John Blum. Blum will start out right in front of his own goal. Blum at his own line, at center. He just drifts it into the Baltimore right wing corner. Covering the kangarooing puck is Seguin. Up the boards for Armstrong. Armstrong at his own line for Harlow. Scott Harlow to center, hits the main line. He swerves to the left boards. Drove it in behind the goal. Covering up for Maine on the defense is Bruce Schubautem, and his clearing pass deflected at the right boards into the crowd by Scott Harlow, who has been transformed into a center tonight by general manager coach Ginu Briaco. 16:05 remaining for second period action. 1-0 Jacks in 39 seconds. The Bannerman penalty will expire, and the Jacks will be presented a partial power play for 39 seconds, and that would be their first such power play of the night, barring unforeseen circumstances. The faceoff will be outside the main line across the way from us on the skipjack left wing. Both teams in the meantime are skating a man short. Turcotte and Carter, the principals. One by Turcotte, center zone. Gagne on left wing. Nudges it to the boards for Hoover. Hoover upended by Lamb. Lamb poked it ahead for Taylor Hall, who was trying to streak in over the Baltimore line on the right boards, and Gagne was there. Now Wayne Gagne on left wing at center for Tim Hoover. He slides it in behind the main goal as he was being skated off by Hall. Rounding the net with it is Cote. Ahead on right wing at center for Taylor Hall. Reaching the Baltimore line. Right circle for Cote. Firing, and that was wide. Rebound all the way to the left point for Blake Wesley. He sends it around the Baltimore backboards into the left corner. Turcotte is on it there. Now Alfie Turcotte in front of the goal for Gagne, and he's away. The penalty is over. Gagne at center, crossing the main line. He pulls up on the left point. Now Gagne still has it center point. Shoots. Romano the save. The rebound in front. Turcotte fired. Oh, a scintillating save by Romano. Sprawling on his back. He robbed Alfie Turcotte at point-blank range. No further play. Boy, Wayne Gagne that time hopped in over the main line on the left wing boards, and then he suddenly veered across the center point, and he drilled the shot. Romano the save. There was a tantalizing rebound relinquished in front. Alfie Turcotte seized it and he fired, but Romano pulled off a save of great magnitude for the Mariners. Still 28 seconds remaining in this Jacks partial power play. Baltimore's 41 power play goals are foremost in the league. They have struck 18 times in their last 51 opportunities for a glowing 35% proficiency spanning the last 9 games. In fact, 24 of the Jacks' 41 league-high power play goals have been cannoneered in the Skipjacks' last 12 games. The Jacks have scored this season 90 goals, including tonight's goal from Sean Toomey, and 41 of them by benefit of the power play. Face-off right of Romano. Main goal, Alfie Turcotte with the Jacks. John Carter for the Mariners on the face-off. It'll be Turcotte, Vargas, and Shedden up front. Doug Shedden is on a 4-game streak with 6 points, 2 goals, and 4 assists. Steve Seguin will man the left point. Wayne Gagne the right point for the Skipjacks. Jacks are minus right wing Britt Peer with a wrist injury. All ready to go. Waiting for the linesman. Turcotte and Carter move in. They draw swords. One by Turcotte into the left wing corner, controlled by Vargas, leaving it there for Shedden. Doug Shedden to the left point for Seguin. Right point for Gagne. Kicked away by Carter, whose stick splintered in a million pieces all the way to center zone. Controlled by Seguin. Now Steve Seguin back to his own line. Across on the right side for Gagne. In the middle at center for Turcotte. Storming in over the main line. Left circle. Turcotte swoops in behind the goal. Alfie Turcotte centered one. Blocked in front by Dunbar. Penalty over to Reed as Dunbar is to center at the Baltimore line, and he was skated off by Gagne in front. Now Wayne Gagne's pass along the board, seized at the line by Reed. Across to the right point for Cote. Cote shot, didn't make it through to the crease, halted by Turcotte. Alfie Turcotte leads on right wing in his own line for Shedden. In the middle for Vargas at center, skated off by Reed, who thunders in over the Baltimore line on the right board, squeezed by Seguin, captured behind the goal by Shedden, clearing to the line. Campbell contained on the left point with a screen shot. Oh, what a save by Bannerman. And he'll place his left paw on that one with the main centerman, Jeff Lamb, all over Murray Bannerman. Boy, Bannerman was low in the crouch. Excellent concentration as Campbell boomed a screen shot from the left point, and somehow Bannerman pulled off a remarkable save. Lamb was attempting to really brush up against, if not bruise Bannerman in the goal crease in a screening effort. If anything, he had the Skipjack goaltender well occupied. But Bannerman again has been razor sharp tonight. With 14:10 left in the middle period, it's 1-0 Skipjacks. The Sean Toomey goal way back at 1:01 of the opening period, the sole goal in this one. Maine is the lowest scoring team in the league, averaging less than 3 goals per game. They've scored 15 fewer goals than the next team in line, they being Springfield. While Maine, though, has allowed the 3rd fewest goals against. Only New Haven and Adirondack have allowed fewer goals than the last place Northern Division Mariners. Lamb and Perkins on the face-off right of Bannerman, Jack's goal. All ready to go. The linesman Rick Zerby trying to exert authority here. Perkins won it. Behind the goal for Val James, around the left wing boards. James for Toomey and up the boards for Perkins at the Baltimore line, and Terry Perkins is away at center. Wrapping it in behind the main goal. Alain Cote will control. Leading on right wing in his own line for Lamb. Bowled over by James in an intimidating fashion at the right point, pinching in. James to the right point for Richer, shooting. Blocked by Lamb. Richer is trapped. Now Lamb at center behind. Richer at the Baltimore line. Top of the left circle for Crawford with a shot. Stick to side by Bannerman. Rebound behind the goal for Val James, and the Jacks are away. James up the boards at center for Terry Perkins, romping in over the main line. At the top of the right circle, he drove it in behind the goals. The Jacks were changing. Rounding the main net is Cote. Leading on right wing at center for Beraldo. Past him all the way down ice. Armstrong reaching it behind the Jacks goal. Maine charge with icing, a break in the action. 13-19 left, second period. Jacks 1, Maine nothing on the Skipjacks Hockey Network. Back to the play. At center, Nienhuis, zooming in over the Baltimore line on the left wing boards. He was forced wide of the corner boards by Armstrong, who rode him off. Contained, though, on the left point by Wesley. Wesley behind the goal for Hall, right in front for Nienhuis with a shot. He scores! Craig Nienhuis, and Maine is tied at 1-1. Nienhuis just outfoxed and out-finessed the coverage in front of the Baltimore goal. And from behind the goal, Taylor Hall slipped it to him in front. And the third-year pro, recently reassigned by Parent Club Boston, just stashed it behind Murray Bannerman at 7:01. And this game is equalized at 1-1. And the Jacks' coverage in front of the goal suffered a serious breakdown there. So the game is tied 1-1. Mariners have 5 shots on goal in this period. The Jacks 2. That's Nienhuis second from Taylor Hall. He is Maine's leading scorer. From the faceoff, Nienhuis pulled down Alfie Turcotte from the faceoff at center ice. And Craig Nienhuis will be chased for Maine for holding at 7:06. We have a Skipjacks power play coming up, their first of the full-fledged variety of the night. A break in the action. It's Maine 1, Jacks 1 on the Skipjacks Hockey Network. Holding. Terry Ficcarelli rejoining you live from the Baltimore Arena. Nienhuis from Hall and Wesley at 7:01, and then Nienhuis for holding at 7:06. Face on left of Romano, Maine goal. It's a 1-1 duel. Perkins won it to the right point, directing it for Shedden. Shedden all the way across to the left boards for Turcotte. Into the corner for Perkins. He fired it right through the crease. Lomo failed to convert, but is controlled on the right boards by Toomey. Toomey into the corner for Lomo. Leaving it there for Toomey. Checked by Reed. Reed is past Shedden, who's trapped. Reed at center for Hall on the Baltimore line. Hall for the left circle. Fired. Oh, Bannerman the save. And he'll smother that one outside the crease. No further play. Well, that is one of the major problems you're faced with when you deploy 5 forwards on the power play. Doug Shedden that time was trapped. He was caught inside the line, committing himself at the right point, and that allowed the Mariners to just burst in over the Skipjack line. Still a minute 34 remaining in Baltimore's first full-fledged power play of the night. 12:28 for the period. It's a 1-1 tie. Maine tying it just moments ago, a half minute ago to be exact, with Nienhuis second from Taylor Hall and Blake Wesley at 7:01, and they've outshot the Jacks 17-9. Faceoff will unravel right of Bannerman, Jacks goal. Terry Perkins, the league leader in power play artistry with 10 goals, opposing Jeff Lamb, the former Pittsburgh Penguins, a draft from the Denver University. Perkins won it. Behind the goal for Captain Doug Shedden, and he'll engineer the power play rush. Shedden angles it up on right wing in his own line for Turcotte. Stripped from his stick by Jeff Lamb, who flutters it in on goal. Short hop by Bannerman. Leaving behind the goal for Shedden. Doug Shedden trying to organize the Jacks on this power play. Now Shedden at his own line for Terry Perkins, who wheels in the middle at center. Perkins zooming in over the main line, left it on the left point for Toomey, the trailer. Now Toomey's pass right on the stick of Alain Cote, and he fires it down ice from the right circle. Under a minute for the power play as Shedden rounds the Jacks net. Now Shedden leads on right wing in his own line for Seguin. Steve Seguin wheels in the middle at center. He fired it in behind the main goal. It takes a weird hop off the backboards into the crease, and Roberto Romano retraced his steps in an acrobatic fashion and pounced on top of that one energetically, as he had committed himself to blockade it at the backboards when that puck took a mysterious hop off the backboards and danced very dangerously into the goal crease. 43 seconds remaining in the power play, which has been virtually negligible thus far. At 11:37 for the middle period, it's a 1-1 tie. The Jacks have not been heard from since 1:01 of this game when Sean Toomey connected. J.F. Noah is in uniform for the Jacks tonight, but he has seen no service thus far. He is the 10th forward. Scott Harlow and Dave Reed on the face-off circle right of Romano. Main goal, won by Harlow, left point for Hoover. Now Tim Hoover loads the gun. Fires, deflected in behind the goal by Reed. Dug out by Lomo, back to the left point for Hoover with a shot, and that was wide. Lomo has the rebound on the left boards. Now Byron Lomo in the circle, right in front for Harlow, the backhander. Great save, Romano. Rebound in the crease. Vargas shoots, he scores! Ernie Vargas, Jacks lead 2-1. Vargas slams home the rebound that slithered through the crease after Scott Harlow had been stymied point blank range with more Romano goaltending mastery. Ernie Vargas, sixth, his first goal and first point in his fourth outing with the Skipjacks. Probably Harlow and either Lomo or Hoover on the assist. That's another Baltimore power play goal at 8:43. Alfie Turcotte with the main line. Right in front for Gagne with a shot. Knocked down by Wesley. Controlled on the right boards by Cote. He sends Johnston romping to center over the Baltimore line. Left circle for Carter. Carter right in front for Crawford, and he was pulled down by Turcotte at the edge of the crease. But it may have prevented a tying goal for the Mariners, as Alfie Turcotte will be chased, withholding the call at 9:06. And again, the Jacks are caught flat-footed in self-admiration of scoring a goal, as the Mariners just roared right back. It was Vargas from Lomo and Harlow at 8:43 on the Skipjacks' league-high 42nd power play goal, and their 19th in the last 53 opportunities. Turcotte for the Jacks, 2 minutes for holding at 9:06, just 23 seconds after Vargas had reclaimed the Skipjack lead. Maine presented its fourth power play of the night. They are 0 for 3, face-off left of Bannerman, Baltimore goal. It'll be Lomo and Carter on the face-off, 2-1 Skipjacks. Lomo won it deep in the left corner. Control behind the goal by Carter. He steps in front, firing. Bannerman the save on the short side as Carter tried to wedge one in. Contained center point by Cote. Left point for Crawford, center point for Cote. The shot is wide. Rebound back to the right boards for Carter. Right point for Cote. Top of the right circle for Carter. The shot! Oh, Bannerman, an electrifying save after James deflected it. Dug out behind the goal by Campbell to the left point for Crawford. Right point for Cote. Along the boards, right side for Carter. Carter comes off the board, center point for Cote with a shot, and that was wide. And Murray Bannerman collects the rebound left side of the crease and sails it into the crowd, with John Carter lurking on the doorstep dangerously for the Mariners. 10:14 for the middle period. 1:20 for the Jacks, holding penalty to Alfie Turcotte. Ernie Vargas, sixth goal of the campaign. His first as a Jack from Lomo and Harlow at 8:43. Scott Harlow running his latest scoring streak to 5 games. Make it 4 games with 5 points in that 4-game streak for Harlow on a goal and 4 assists. Jacks have never trailed. They have carved out their second 1-goal lead of the night. Maine is deadlocked at once. They've never led. Lomo and Nienhuis on the face-off left of Bannerman. Jack's goal. Sticks come down. Won by Lomo, nudging it low in the circle to James, sailing into the line, knocked down right point by Cote, but he was really thumped by Lomo, allowing Sean Toomey at the line to seize it and fired out ice. Now Cote at his own line, up on right wing at center for Nienhuis. He snapped it in around the Baltimore backboards, all the way to the right side. They tangle there for it there, Lomo and Reed. Reed controls it. Now Dave Reed behind the goal, checked by James. They jostle for it vigorously behind the goal. James to control it himself, and Val James overpowers 2 Maine players at the backboards, and he fires it down ice. 40 seconds for the power play. Wayne Crawford, the former IHL standout with Kalamazoo, up the middle at center for Nienhuis. It snaked off his stick to the Baltimore line. Tim Hoover is waiting for it there on the left defense and fires back behind the Maine goal. Half minute for the power play. Crawford again, ahead for Cote at his own line, romping to center lane. Cote at the Baltimore line, right circle for Nienhuis. Forced wide of the boards by Hoover with a centering pass. blocked by Perkins, and the Jacks spring out. Perkins to center over the main line, left circle for Hoover. Hoover swoops in behind the goal, skated off neatly by Taylor Hall. 5 seconds for the power play. Controlled at the main line by Cote in the middle at center for Hall. Directing it to the side of the goal. Bannerman himself finds an opening. Steers it up on left wing at center for Turcotte, who just stepped out of the penalty box. Turcotte on the left boards, drove it in behind the goal as he was muscled in a mighty mood by Blum. Controlled in front of the goal by the Mariners. Dale Dunbar's pass seized at center by Terry Perkins, curling back to his own line. Perkins on right wing at center for Richer, scampering into the main line. Richer centers it right through the crease, all the way through to the main right boards. Gobbled up there by the Mariners. At center, Beraldo. Over the Baltimore line, Paul Beraldo wheels to the right side of the goal. Checked by James, who shouldered him lustily. Dug out in the corner, though, by Camazola. Pinned by Perkins. Rolls into the circle. Digging it out along the boards for Maine is Lamb. Now Jeff Lamb. Jammed at the boards by Seguin. Seguin starts the Jacks away. Charlie Meitner at center. Over the main line on right wing for Seguin. He was rudely upended from behind by Lamb, with Seguin losing his stick, and Maine is away, but Beraldo failed to control it at center zone. Controlled instead at center zone by the Mariners. Jim Camazola on left wing. Over the Baltimore line. Skated off by Gagne. Control behind the Jacks goal by Harlow. 7:47 for the second period. Now Harlow just sends it to the main line. Controlled on the defense on the left side by Blake Wesley. Wesley leaves on the line for Carter, dropping back. Now John Carter evades the check of Harlow on right wing at center, zooming in over the Baltimore line in the circle. Upended rudely by Hoover. Puck sails into the Baltimore corner. Digging it out left side, Crawford. Entangled by Harlow, who took it away. Now Scott Harlow to the side of the goal for Hoover. Now Hoover without a helmet. Directs it to the right boards neatly for Byron Lomo, who flutters it into Maine territory. 7:12 for the period. 2-1 Jacks. Controlled Maine side of the goal. Right side by Shoebottom. At center for Wesley over the Baltimore line. Blake Wesley on the line. At the right wing boards for Johnston. Now on the boards for Carter. Centering it, blocked in front by Shedden, and the Jacks stream out three abreast. Doug Shedden at center for Alfie. Turcotte over the main line. Right in front for Shedden with a shot. Oh, and he boomed it over top of the net, over the glass into the crowd. No further play. Oh, did Doug Shedden ever rake a rocket? A break in the action. 6:49 left, second period. Jacks 2, Maine 1 on the Skipjacks Hockey Network.
Please report to the scorer's table with 4 minutes remaining in the second period. Those winning numbers again: 8675 and 8719.
Now from the face-off. Puck skids right in front of the main goal after Romano again misplayed the carom off the backboards, but on the scene to cover Cote. His pass knocked down left point by Armstrong. Armstrong pours right in front, shooting. Knocked down by Wade Campbell on the defense, and he sends it to center, where Bob Kennedy on right wing rifles it around the main backboard to the left side for Turcotte. Now Turcotte swerves through the circle. Right in front for Shedden at the crease, and he fired it wide. He was all alone in front. Rebound to the right wing boards for Alfie. Turcotte twisting and turning in the circle right in front for Vargas with a shot. Great save by the spread-eagled Romano. And he'll smother it in the crease with the Skipjacks. Doug Shedden being bowled over at the goal mouth by Ole Cote. 6:09 left, second period. The Jacks have been gathering momentum. They are closing the period with a flourish. They are punctuating it with a high, huge, handsome exclamation point. The impetus provided by the Ernie Vargas power play goal at 8:43 to vault the Jacks back into the lead. The faceoff will be circle left of Roberto Romano in the main goal. And Romano has been superlative in this period. From the faceoff behind the goal. Corralled by the Mariners, John Blum. He wrapped it off the right wing boards to center. Val James on left wing whips it right back into the main right corner. Covering up is Dale Dunbar. His clearing pass knocked down by Seguin. Centering it. No in front. And he was muscled by Dunbar, who intimidated him and JF knows first shift of the night, and the Mariners are away. Jeff Lamb on right wing at center. Over the Baltimore line. Spun around by No. Puck skids to the left side of the goal, and No is on it for the Jacks. JF No angles it up on right wing in his own line behind Perkins all the way to center zone, where Dale Dunbar fires back behind the Jacks goal. Bannerman himself around the right wing boards for Richer at his own line for Perkins, off his stick to center. Back comes Wesley over the Baltimore line, right hash mark, right in front, shooting. Bannerman the save. Rebound in front for James. James at center for No on right wing, wrapping it over the main line. No, right in front for Perkins. Checked brilliantly by Wesley before he could squeeze the trigger. Back come the Mariners, Beraldo at center. Paul Beraldo over the Baltimore line on right wing and in the circle. He was smacked down by Hoover, and back come the Jacks. JF No to center. Over the main line. Centered it for Terry Perkins in the left circle. Shooting. Blocked down the defense by Shoebottom, and back comes Maine. John Carter springs to center. Over the Baltimore line. Knocked off his stick by Gagne. Contained on the left point by the trailer Reed. He's checked by Gagne, who explodes to center. Wayne Gagne over the main line. Left circle for Harlow. Scott Harlow swoops in behind the goal, trying to wrap it around on the short side, and Romano guards the door. And the puck for the left boards is sent to center by Campbell. Controlled by Gagne. At the main line on the left wing for Harlow. Broken up neatly on the defense by Shoebottom, who wrapped it in behind the Jacks goal from center. Bannerman sets it up there for Gagne. 4:16 for the period. Wayne Gagne just fired it off the left wing boards to center. Alain Cote rockets it back into the Baltimore zone. Charging after the Karaman behind the goal is Crawford. Squeezed at the backboards by Hoover with heavy-duty muscle, but contained on the right point by Cote. The screen shot is wide as Crawford was cracked out in front lustily by Hoover. Back come the Jacks. Byron Lomo romps to center on right wing. Lomo over the main line. Checked on the defense by Campbell. Campbell's clearing pass for Crawford at his own line. And Bob Kennedy was late on the arrival at the right point, pinching in a rather intimidating fashion on Crawford, but he failed to hold it in at the line, and the Jacks are trapped offside. 3:46 left in this, the second period. It's the Skipjacks 2 and Maine 1. We want to remind you that the very popular and a long-time hockey writer of the Baltimore Evening Sun, George Taylor, will be our special guest coming up at our second intermission tonight. George has been on the Baltimore hockey beat for 45 years. And it'll be great to have George with us. Always a pleasure to have him in our company. Now George Kennedy used to be a movie star. Get our Georges confused. That was Bob Kennedy. Anyway, back to the play. Now Taylor Hall on right wing at center, reaching the Baltimore line, top of the circle, shooting right on. And Murray Bannerman with a handful of hot rivets finally brought that one down eye high. No further play. Murray Bannerman, the flamboyant stylist, and that time he really had a handful of rivets as Taylor Hall from the top of the right circle really uncorked a cannonading drive. The face-off left of Bannerman. Jacks goal, 3:31 for the period. Jacks have been outshot 20-13, but they're on top 2-1 on the Ernie Vargas power play goal at 8:43, just 1:42. After Craig Nienhaus had tied it at 7:01 on this period. At 1-1 for Maine. From the face-off, the puck skims all the way back to the main line on the left boards. Chased down by Dunbar in pursuit, Shedden. Now Dunbar just sends it to the Baltimore line, seized there by Ian Armstrong. He drove it back into Maine territory. Dunbar on the left boards in front of Shedden again. Up the boards for Camazola. Leaving it back at the line for Dunbar as Turcotte is forechecking tenaciously. Now Dale Dunbar leads on left wing at center for Camazola, who angles it across into the Baltimore right corner. Bannerman is there himself, and Bannerman sends Turcotte exploding to center. Over the main line, left circle for Shedden with a shot! Oh, a gymnastic save by Romano. Back comes Maine. At their own line, Blum to center for Camazola. Over the Baltimore line, left circle for Nienhaus with a shot. Pad save Bannerman. Rebound behind the goal. Collected by Alfie Turcotte, and he sails it down ice. Back to reach it as it crawls like a centipede over the goal line as Alain Cote. Whistle sounds. Jacks charged with icing. A break in the action. 2:37 left, second period. Jacks 2, Maine 1 on the Skipjacks Hockey Network. Got some real retards here tonight. Back to the play. Puck into the Baltimore zone. Bannerman behind the goal will barricade for Val James. James clearing pass, knocked down the left boards by Shoebottom, but stripped from his stick by Steve Sagan. Sagan to center, gallops in over the ball, the main line, forced wide of the boards by Wesley, who wrapped him up. Covering behind the goal is Jeff Lamb. Now Lamb is underway at his own line, accelerating to center at the Baltimore line. He left it on the line on the right side for Paul Beraldo, but it doesn't matter. Offside on the left side for Maine was Bruce Shoebottom. No further play. 2:06 left for second period action. And again, we want to remind you, the very popular hockey writer of the Baltimore Evening Sun, Mr. George Taylor, the venerable one, will be our special guest live at our second intermission tonight. Face-off outside the Jacks line across the way from us on their left wing, and they lead it 2-1. Toomey's 13th, 101 of the opening period. Jacks led 1-0. Ernie Vargas 6th on the Jacks league-high 42nd power play goal, 8:43 of the second period. 1:42 after Craig Nienhuis had tied it temporarily for the visitors. From the face-off, Jacks control at their own line. It's stolen though. Reed right in front for Carter. Jumped off his stick to the crease. Knocked away by Bannerman's stick. Controlled along the boards by Harlow. Harlow winds it around the backboards to the left circle for Gagne. Now Gagne on left wing at his own line for Meitner in the middle at center for Harlow. He overskated it and back comes Maine. Reed over the Baltimore line on the left wing boards. It's checked by Gagne and it deflects off the glove of Gagne into the crowd. In the second row, we have a scramble and a gentleman in a neutral colored jacket festooned with a navy trim from Havre de Grace. Grab that one. And we also want to welcome our friends from Havre de Grace listening on WASA AM 13 and WHDG 103 FM. Back again for a second consecutive season on that ever-growing Skipjacks Hockey Network. Face-off will be arc of the circle, barely inside of it. Circle right of Bannerman, Jack's goal. I'll tell you, the people in Havre de Grace will be buzzing tonight. That gentleman plucked the puck. Now from the face-off, Gagne from behind his own goal will corral it. Stalked in front by Carter, dishing to left corner. Gagne for Hoover up the boards at his whole line for Meitner. In the middle at center for Scott Harlow trailing. Now Harlow wheels across on left wing, over the main line on right wing for Meitner. He wheels right in front for Lomo, and he fanned on the shot as Lomo was closing in. Back comes Maine. Carter at his own line for Cote in the middle at center for Reed. Back for Carter trailing. Now John Carter along the Baltimore boards on the right side. Rudely tumbled by Hoover, who stapled into the boards. It squirms in behind the goal, though, digging it out. Johnston with a minute left in the period. Greg Johnston centered one. Blocked neatly to the side of the goal by Gagne, who's had a stellar performance. Now Wayne Gagne up on left wing in his own line for Meitner. In the middle at center for Harlow, reaching the main line. Checked from behind neatly by Reed. Now Dave Reed on the right defense for Cote. Sylvain Cote at center, checked from behind by Lomo, who hooked him. And there will be a Jacks penalty in the waning moments of the second period for hooking to Byron Lomo. An ill-advised penalty at an inopportune moment, at a time when the Jacks did not need a penalty, and no penalty or violation was required because the Jacks had matters under control, and the violation really occurred at center circle with all the Jacks already peeling back in a back-checking mode. Lomo with not one of the smartest penalties you'll ever see for hooking at 19:26. Maine has presented its fifth power play of the night. They're fourth alone in this period, yet the Jacks, with only one full-fledged power play tonight, capitalize. Now from the face-off, puck into the Baltimore zone, chugging in after it is Campbell. Richer draped over his back. Nienhuis back to the right point for Cote. Along the boards for Nienhuis on the hash mark. Center point for Cote. The waffling shot is wide. The rebound behind the goal. Carter tried to center one. It was Hall. It's loose in front. It skids back behind the goal. Captured there by Richer, driving it to the line. Crawford contained on the left point, but time runs out. And the Jacks find the escape hatch as the second period is over, but Maine will have power play time. to the right circle for Hall. Oh, jabbed off his stick brilliantly by Turcotte. Turcotte at center for Toomey. He hits the main line. Pulls up inside the line and then backhands behind the goal. 24 seconds for the power play. Behind the goal, Crawford's pass was seized at the main line by Terry Perkins. He'll curl all the way back into his own zone with it. Perkins finds an opening and sweeps it to the main line. Control by Crawford across on right wing at center. Blom at the Baltimore line for Craig Nienhaus, who pulls up along the right wing boards, leaving it there for Johnson. Now Johnson with 3 seconds left in the penalty to Lomo. Still has it. Leaves it on the boards for Carter. Lomo is back on. Carter wheels in the right corner, pivots. Still has it. Right in front for Nienhaus. The shot. Bannerman the save. Rebound left circle for James. James at center for Seguin. Seguin over the main line. Right in front for Perkins with a shot. Oh, and he fired it wide. The rebound all the way back to center. Stefan Richer on right wing drove it off Perkins into the main zone. And from the top of their left circle, Dunbar fires to the Baltimore line. And Richer from there fires it on goal. Romano the save. Rebound behind the goal for Blum. Now John Blum angles it up on left wing at center for John Carter, reaching the Baltimore line with a shot. Richer deflects it harmlessly behind the goal where Armstrong controls around the boards on right wing for Lomo. At center for Harlow over the main line, left circle for Vargas. Now Vargas wheels in behind the goal, ducking underneath the check of Shoebottom, but covering up in the right corner was a toppling Paul Beraldo, who drove it to the goaltender Bannerman himself. Now Murray Bannerman on right wing at his own line for Lomo. Across on left wing at center for Charlie Meitner, reaching the main line. Meitner was crunched along the boards clamorously by Shoebottom, who sends Jeff Lamb to center over the Baltimore line. Right circle for Beraldo. Checked beautifully by Harlow, and the Jacks are away. Charlie Meitner to center over the main line. Top of the left circle with a shot, and Cote deflects it behind the goal. Dug out along the right wing boards by Byron Lomo. He tried to roll one right in front for Harlow. Swept out of the crease by Romano. Harlow was high-sticked in the face by Wesley. Play goes right on. Bob Kennedy at center zone on right wing, drove it to the main line. Control by Alain Cote. He drove it back into Baltimore territory. Rounding the Jacks net is Kennedy. Bob Kennedy on right wing in his own line for Lomo, hoisting it to the main zone. Turcotte trying to steal along the right boards from Dunbar, who spun him around, and Maine will start out. Crawford at his own line. Across on the left defense for Dunbar, as Shedden and Turcotte are forechecking with fury. Now along the right wing boards. Dunbar cross ice for Cote, stolen by Turcotte, right in front for Vargas with a shot. Deflected into the corner by Reed. Dug out along the main right wing boards by Taylor Hall. And they'll stream out three abreast. Hall to center over the Baltimore line. Right circle for Reed. Around Gagne. Right in front for Crawford. Swept away by Bannerman. The puck skips into the left corner. Digging it out is Gagne. Wayne Gagne sails it over the glass into the crowd at the Baltimore blue line. No further play. 16:02 remaining. Third period. 2-1 Skipjacks. Face-off forthcoming. Circle left of Bannerman, Jack's goal. Apparently Scott Harlow is all right. He was inadvertently high-sticked. It appeared right across the bridge of the nose by the main defenseman, Bruce Shoebottom, in front. He returned to the Skipjack bench, but he's all right. May have been just in fright more than anything else. Face-off circle left of Bannerman, Jack's goal. 16:02 left. 2-1 Skipjacks. The Ernie Vargas power play goal at 8:43 of the second period. The difference. Now Val James behind the goal. Around the right wing boards for Steve Seguin. Seguin clear to the line. Johnston holds it in. Left wing corner for Nienhaus. The sharp angle shot. Bannerman the save. Rebound skids into main territory. Steve Seguin was pulled down, giving chase for the puck at the center red line on the right boards by Greg Johnston. And he's already in the penalty box. I don't even think the whistle had sounded yet. And Greg Johnston was already in the penalty box. He knew it. Guilty as charged at 4:15. Jacks presented power play time. This will be their third of the night, only their second full-fledged. Greg Johnston, who spent all of last season with parent club Boston, 2 minutes for hooking at 4:15. Face-off will develop circle left of Romano and the main goal. Boy, the Jacks would really like to exploit this power play successfully. They lead it by 1, 2-1. But we've been down this road before, haven't we? Lamb won it from Harlow. Behind the goal for Blum. Winding it around the boards. Halted on the left side by Lomo. Into the corner for Vargas, and eludes him. Squirming in behind the goal. Harlow is on it, though, overpowering Lamb. Harlow side of the goal for Lomo. Right in front for Vargas with a shot. Great save, Romano. Rebound right circle for Harlow. Right in front for Lomo, the backhander, right through the crease, all the way across and through to the main right boards. Turcotte pinches in from the point. All on the boards for Vargas. He sends it in behind the goal. John Blum collects it, and Blum sails it down ice. 1:21 for the power play. Doug Shedden strides behind the skipjack goal. He'll corral it. Now Shedden leads on right wing at his own line for Alfie. Turcotte in the middle at center for Toomey, hitting the main line, shooting over top of the net with the Toomey shot. Rebound in the left circle, fired down ice by Cote. 1:02 for the power play. Doug Shedden slips in behind the goal. Slipped it in front of the goal for Harlow, who will curl back behind the goal. Now Harlow in front of the goal, up on left wing at his own line for Charlie Meitner. Forced back in front of the goal by the forward, checking persistence of Carter, leaving for Shedden. Now Doug Shedden up on left wing at center for Turcotte, over the main line on the right side for Sean Toomey. Toomey along the boards, pulls up, checked by Reed, and rolled down ice from the left wing boards by Shoebottom. Bannerman in front of the goal, headman's it at his own line for Shedden. In the middle at center for Perkins, behind him. Control back at the skipjack line by Toomey. 22 seconds for the power play. Toomey across on right wing for Shedden, still at the Baltimore line. His pass aimlessly to an open wing at center, seized by Cote over the Baltimore line. Right circle for Carter with a shot. Bannerman the save, the rebound right in front. The backhander by Carter right through the crease, all the way into the Baltimore right corner. Control by Turcotte, penalty over. Maine was actually more dangerous short-handed than the Jacks were. Now Alfie Turcotte to center, rolls it in behind the main goal. Tracked down by Nienhuis, Toomey in pursuit along with Perkins, who rubbed out Nienhuis deep in the right corner robustly. But on the scene to cover up Cote. Cote behind the goal, muscled by Vargas, seized in the right circle by Perkins. Perkins trying to wheel in behind the goal. He dropped it side of the goal for Toomey, right in front for Hoover. The backhander is wide. Rebound behind the goal. Digging it out there is Wesley. Wesley at the back of the net. Directs it around the left wing boards out of harm's way for Craig Nienhuis. Back in front of the goal for Wesley. Shadowed by Perkins, forcing Wesley to fire it to the line. Ahead for Nienhuis at center. Craig Nienhuis zooming in over the Baltimore line. From in front, he fired, and that was wide. Covering behind the Jacks goal is Gagne. Leaves it in the right circle for Hoover. Tim Hoover up on left wing at center for Toomey behind him. Maine will control Dave Reed at center zone. Drove it in behind the goal. Gagne will control that. Eases it up on right wing at his own line for Harlow. He couldn't catch up with it there. Campbell pinching it from the point. Directs it in behind the goal for Reed. Dave Reed in the right wing corner side of the goal for Nienhuis. Nienhuis leaves it there for Hall. Taylor Hall back along the boards for Nienhuis. He was spilled by Vargas. Vargas controls it for Harlow on left wing. Scott Harlow at his own line to center. Strokes it in behind the main goal. Romano will set it up for Campbell. Both teams are changing. Control by Campbell. Campbell chased right back behind the goal again by Lomo. Draped over his back forward, checking with great tenacity. Now Blum is on the scene. Blum in the corner, checked by Lomo. Lomo kicks it in behind the goal, and Blum recovers it there, and he fires it to the Baltimore line. Ian Armstrong controls, flinging it up the right wing boards for Kennedy, leaving it there at center for Turcotte at the main line for Charlie Meitner. Bursting through the defense, Meitner's backhander right through the crease, all the way through to the left boards for Turcotte. Now Alfie Turcotte centers it right in front, and it rolled off Meitner's stick into the crease, smothered by Romano. The fight is on. It's Lomo and John Blum outside the crease. Lomo has been punched once, and his helmet comes flying off. Now Lomo lands a left. Now Lomo trying to punch over the right shoulder of the linesman, Gary Madsen. And finally, the two Matadors are being successfully mollified by the linesman. Lomo and Blum, our first scuffle of the night. And it occurs at 8:22 here in this third period. A break of the action. Jacks 2, Maine 1 on the Skipjacks Hockey Network. You having problems tonight? What's the problem? Are we getting any replays tonight or not? Do we have replays of goals? But we don't have any replays on any of the goals tonight, or what?
And the Skipjacks, number 18, Byron Lomo, 5 minutes each for fighting. Time of the penalties.
Terry Ficcarelli rejoining you live from the Baltimore Arena. The Jacks, Byron Lomo, and Maine's John Blum, 5-minute majors for fighting at 8:22. Neither team penalized skaters in this third period. Maine 5 shots, Jacks 2 in the game. Mariners 27, Jacks 17. But Baltimore is on top 2-1. Faceoff will develop, circle left of Romano, and the main goal. Neither team penalized skaters as they are coincidental 5-minute fighting majors. Alfie Turcotte for the Jacks without a point in his last 2 games after a 12-game scoring streak resulting in 20 points, 7 goals, 13 assists. Turcotte's 12-game scoring streak was the 3rd longest in the league this season. He'll be in the face-off, and he'll be opposing the Mariners' John Carter. In the meantime, referee Lance Roberts is refastening the buckle on the Roberto Romano right goalie pad. All ready to go. Turcotte and Carter on the face-off. Sticks come down. Waiting for the linesman. Sticks come down. Puck not dropped. Take 2. Turcotte and Carter. One by Carter right in front of the goal. Cote will start out lugging at center circle, shooting, and Murray Bannerman kicks that one high into the crowd. No further play. And Bannerman in rapier-like fashion has been razor sharp tonight. 11:32 remaining for regulation time. The third period bugaboo voodoo has not risen up and bitten the Jacks yet. They've been outscored in the third period at home 22-10, including 2-0 here on Sunday night when the Jacks also squandered a 2-1 lead entering the third period and eventually succumbed to Newmarket 3-2. The face-off circle left of Bannerman, Jacks goal. This is only the 4th time this season the Jacks have entered the third period with the lead. They have yet to win one. 2nd game in a row. Val Jeans behind the goal, whipped it around the right wing boards for Shedden. Shedden bowled over Dunbar, pinching it from the point, allowing Turcotte the trailer to control. Alfie Turcotte in the middle at center, drove it in behind the main goal. Tracked down there, deep in the right corner by Greg Johnston, as Johnston overpowered Shedden. He seeks shelter with it behind the goal, the Jacks forechecking. Now Johnston. Right up the middle at center for Crawford. Beyond him, all the way down ice. Bannerman will cover the carom away from Crawford, who had penetrated behind the defense, nullifying icing. He'll fire it up on right wing at center for Turcotte over the main line for Richer. Now Stephane Richer dashes into the corner, leaving for Vargas. Now Ernie Vargas muscles his way in behind the goal. He was squeezed at the backboards by Wesley. Action halted. We have an injured Skipjack deep in the main left wing corner across the way from us. It's the defenseman Stephane Richer. Richer, who has really been the Skipjacks' most improved defender since his acquisition from Sherbrooke. And Dave the Bear Sherrod, a lighter version of the Skipjacks Bear model, has ambled to the scene. And I believe Richer will skate under his own power to the Jacks bench. It may be his, well, we're only guessing. It could be his left hand or his left arm. He was really crunched in the corner after he scampered in from the right point to force the issue. Richer back on the Jacks bench. 10:48 for regulation. 2-1 Skipjacks. Faceoff will be outside the main blue line. Perkins and Reed, the principals. All ready to go. One by Perkins, center red line. Gagne on right wing, shoots right on. Romano directs it along the left wing boards for Wesley. Wesley steers it around the backboards. On right wing for Taylor Hall, who was forced to drop back for it. Hall in the middle at center, and Eathouse thundering in over the Baltimore line along the right wing boards. He centers to the crease. That was knocked back into the corner by Perkins, but dug out by Hall there. Hall to the right point for his shoe bottom. His weak backhander blocked by Perkins, and Terry Perkins propels it down ice. They'll nullify icing. Wesley behind the goal, entangled by Sagan, but covering up Shoebottom in the middle at center for Nienhaus at the Baltimore line, shooting a pad save by Bannerman. Rebounded on the boards. They jostle forth there vigorously. Reed along with Hoover. And finally the Jacks work it out. Toomey to center for Sagan over the main line. Left it on the right wing boards for the trailing Terry Perkins. Whipping it in behind the goal. Campbell in front of Sagan. Drove it into the corner. Stolen there by Perkins. Centering in front for Toomey. And that was swept back to the main by the Baltimore line by Maine's Dave Reed. Bob Kennedy will control. Kennedy on right wing at center, drove it in behind the main goal, 9:36 left. Campbell from behind the goal, dishing to the left boards for Dunbar. Across on right wing at center for Carter. He springs in over the Baltimore line, pulling up right circle. Sanders to the crease, deflected away beautifully by the back checking of Bob Kennedy. The puck into the Baltimore left corner. Ian Armstrong drove it around the backboards on right wing for Charlie Meitner. Jacks away. Meitner in the middle at center for No. He sailed it in off the main backboards. Covering the carom behind the goal is Blake Wesley. Now Wesley wheels along the left wing boards and he'll start out. The Mariner captain at center. Lashed it around the Baltimore backboards all the way to the right side for Greg Johnston. Now Johnston bowled over by Armstrong, who muscled at the center, where Shoebottom fires into the Baltimore right corner. Covering Bob Kennedy, clearing to center zone, where Dale Dunbar on left wing launched it back in behind the Jacks goal. Vanderman sets it up for Armstrong. Ian Armstrong just flings it off the right wing boards, down ice. Back to reach it behind the main goal is Bruce Shoebottom. Whistle sounds. Jacks charged with icing a break of the action. 8:37 left. Jacks 2, Maine 1 on the Skipjacks Hockey Network.
Baltimore's newest entertainment complex is located at 34 Marketplace in the Brokerage. The original sports bar where the Skipjacks play off the ice.
Terry Ficcarelli rejoining you live from the Baltimore Arena. 8:37 for regulation, and the Jacks continue to nurse this precarious 2-1 lead. The Ernie Vargas power play goal back at 8:43 of the second period, the last successful thrust for either team. Face-off circle right of Bannerman at the left point. The shot by Dunbar is way wide. Rebound into the Baltimore corner. Digging it out there is Lamb, jostled by Turcotte. Turcotte spilled by Lamb, still at the backboards. Turcotte trying to roll over on top of the puck. Finally bounces back on his skates, and he'll capture it. Now Turcotte at his own line. Alfie Turcotte the center. Soars in over the main line in the right circle. Muscled by Dunbar. Covering behind the goal is Campbell. Now Wade Campbell around the boards on right wing at his own line for Lamb. In the middle at center for Beraldo. Paul Beraldo zooming in over the Baltimore line. Left at left circle for Camazola with a shot. And that was wide. Beraldo behind the goal, centered it. Blocked in front by Richer. And Stefan Richer sails it to center zone. Fired to the Baltimore line by Camazola. Richer steals at center over the main line for Turcotte, pulling up top of the circle, centering it. Shedden shot. What a save by Romano, who flexed the pad at the last moment. And it's fired down ice by Cote. They nullify icing. Tim Hoover behind the goal. Just sends it to the main line. Claimed there on the right defense by L.A. Cote. Now Cote will start out at his own line, leading sharply on right wing at center for Nienhaus, checked by Toomey. It squirts loose, center circle, controlled by Dave Reed. He drove it in behind the Baltimore goal. Gagne will control it around the left wing boards for Toomey. Now Sean Toomey at his own line. Rinklund on right wing at center for Shedden. Beyond him, controlled instead by the Mariners. Taylor Hall at the Baltimore line on left wing. He was really crunched along the boards by Gagne at the whistle with the Mariners offside, and from behind, Craig Nienhaus jolted Gagne, and now the Mariners player Blake Wesley tries to bump Gagne as well. All this occurring in the Skipjack circle to the right of Bannerman. Exactly 7 minutes remaining for regulation time, and the Jacks still nursing this fragile 2-1 lead. In this third period, Mariners 7 shots, Jacks 4. In the game, Maine 29 shots, Jacks 19. We want to remind you again that the Skipjacks will be singing Christmas carols next Tuesday night at 7:30 at the Hunt Valley Ball in Cockeysville. We will be conducted by Mr. Tom Hall, director of the Baltimore Choral Arts Society. Our accompanist is Lynn Green from the Shenandoah Music Conservatory, and our warm-up act this year will be the Baltimore Brass Trio and the Skipjacks cheerleaders, better known as the First Mates. Now from the face of it, skims into the main zone. Tracked down by Dunbar, chased in behind the goal by Terry Perkins. Perkins rode him off in the corner, but it's controlled at the main line on the left wing by Hall. In the middle at center for Carter. He'll fire from there. Bannerman gloved it, leaves it in the right circle for Gagne. Wayne Gagne at center for Seguin. Seguin at the main line, shoots right on. Seguin, or the save by Romano. Rebound left corner for Toomey, behind the goal for Perkins. He tried to bolt in front with it, checked neatly by Dunbar at the last instant. Now Dale Dunbar behind the goal. He leaves it there for Greg Johnston peeling back. Johnston rounds the net with Toomey in pursuit. Greg Johnston romps to center at the Baltimore line. Shooting! Kicked out by Bannerman. Rebound to the left boards for Hall. Sending it behind the goal, and Armstrong is there. Ian Armstrong rakes it off the right wing boards. At center for Perkins. Perkins reaches the main line. Floating it in behind the goal. The Jacks are changing. 5:54 left. Now Alain Cote. In front of the main goal that's underway. Up on left wing at center, dishing to Campbell. Wade Campbell over the Baltimore line, in the circle for Nienhuis. Skated off by No. No at center for Harlow. Harlow tried to barge in over the main line. Thumped down the defense by Cote. Puck in behind the goal. They jam for it there. Meitner is there. Now Meitner to the side of the goal for No. That was interrupted by Reed. Now Reed's pass seized in the right corner by No. He was pinned in the corner by a recovering Dave Reed, and Maine is away at its own line. Cote in the middle at center for Crawford. It caroms off his skate into the Baltimore zone. Crawford gives Richer a rough ride deep in the Jacks quarter. Dug out opposite corner by Nienhuis. Nienhuis behind the goal for Reed. Reed tried to roll one in front, and Val James was there. Now he was muscled out the puck by Reed, who centered one right in front. Cote at the left circle controls it. Right in front for Reed with a shot. Bannerman the save. Rebound to the left boards. Comes back to Cote. Crushed by James. It's loose in the right circle. It squirms right through the crease and behind the goals. That puck was dancing crazily. Puck still in behind the goal. Crawford was muscled by Richer at the backboards, but it's dug out behind the goal by Nienhuis, centering it, and it jumped right over the stick of Wesley in front, all the way down ice. 4:29 left. Now Wesley on left wing at center. Rockets it in behind the Baltimore goal. Hoover dishes to the right corner for Gagne. At center for Alfie Turcotte. Turcotte darts in over the main line. He swerves across to the left circle. Into the corner for Vargas. Spun around by Wesley. Covering behind the goal, Johnston. Johnston cracked down by Vargas. They jostle for it there. Stolen in the corner by Shedden, who brought it in front with a backhander over top of the net. Rebound to the left wing boards. Turcotte overpowered by Dunbar. Covering behind the goal for Maine is Wesley. Wesley snaps it crisply across to the right boards for Dunbar. Up the boards at center. His pass stolen there by Vargas. Ernie Vargas powers his way over the main line along the right wing boards. He was crunched right at the line by Vargas. Controlled all the way back into the Baltimore zone. On the right boards by Doug Shedden. And Shedden with a spinorama propels it down ice. 3:29 left, 2-1 Skipjacks. Now Campbell in front of the goal, a long lead on left wing at center for Shoebottom over the Baltimore line. He centered it all the way through to the right wing boards, digging it out as Lamb. Now Lamb into the corner for Camazola. Camazola, strong arm by Kennedy, but seized out of the goal by Hall. Hall centered in front for Lamb. His shot was blocked by Perkins. It caroms into the Baltimore right corner. Digging it out there is Camazola. He was checked neatly by Perkins. And on the right board, Steve Seguin for the Jacks sails it down ice. They'll nullify icing. 2:54 left. Behind the main goal, Campbell drove it to the Baltimore line. Captured there by Richer. Stefan Richer flutters it in on goal. Romano claims it right side of the goal for Shoebottom. Bruce Shoebottom at his own line in full gallop at center at the Baltimore line. Right circle firing, and that was wide. Rebound to the left wing boards. Claimed by the Skipjack, Stefan Richer. Richer, a breakaway pass at center for Toomey. At the main line, he couldn't catch up with that one, but it's controlled on the right boards by Richer, pinching him from the point. He drove it in behind the goal instead, and Dunbar is on it with 2:19 left. Dale Dunbar at his own line. Strides to center. Fired on goal. Bannerman kicks it to the left wing corner for Toomey. Now Sean Toomey at his own line for Shedden. Checked by Cote at center point. Cote in the left circle for Carter with a shot. He scores! John Carter with 2:04 left. And Maine is tied at 2-2. Oh, my. Well, can you believe it? Can you believe it? 2:04 left, and John Carter in the left circle, and he just rattled it behind Murray Bannerman with 2:04 left. And again, the Jacks are denied. It's a 2-2 tie. Carter's first game back after a 2-week stint with parent club Boston. The time of the goal, 17:06. Sylvain Cote forced the issue. He overpowered Doug Shedden at center point, and he directed the puck into the circle, and John Carter was left uncovered, and he really sizzled it. Now from the faceoff, Turcotte wheels in over the main line, pulls up on the left boards. Backhands behind the goal for Shedden, but that was interrupted by a tumbling Blake Wesley. Now Wesley along the boards. His pass halted there by Turcotte. He tried to center one in front for Shedden. Knocked away by Blum. Racing after it is Nienhuis in the Baltimore zone. Nienhuis centered it. Blocked in front by Turcotte, and the Jacks are away. Turcotte at center over the main line and left wing for Vargas. Vargas wheels him behind the goal. Checked by Blum. Loose behind the goal for Shedden. Now Doug Shedden. Pinned to the backboards by Dunbar. Vargas cracked behind the goal by Blum, really working him over with his stick from behind. And finally Blum locks it up with Vargas behind the goal. No further play. A break in the action. 1:20 left. Jacks 2, Maine 2 on the Skipjacks Hockey Network. Unreal, isn't it? Just unreal. Unreal. Terry Ficcarelli rejoining you live from the Baltimore Arena. Carter from Cote and Nienhuis at 17:56. A 2-all tie, 1:18 left in regulation time. Now Maine controls in its own left circle. Campbell eases it up on left wing at center for Dave Reed. Reed reaching the Baltimore line. Left it on the right point for the trailing Wayne Crawford. Back into the corner for Reed. He centered it. Blocked in front by Segay, who clears to the line. And Campbell failed to hold it in at the left point. And all the Mariners are offside with 56 seconds remaining in regulation time. It was John Carter scoring very dramatically with only 2:04 remaining in regulation time to forge the tie. The Jacks have led twice. Maine has broken back and tied it twice. They've outshot the Jacks 10-5 in this third period, 32-20 throughout. The faceoff will be outside the Skipjack line, across the way from us on the Baltimore right wing. Maine first-year coach Mike Milbury will spend his 30-second timeout. A break in the action, 56 seconds remaining. Jacks 2, Maine 2 on the Skipjacks Hockey Network. Terry Ficcarelli rejoining you live from the Baltimore Arena, and it's almost uncanny, almost astonishing how matters seem to just betray the Jacks in the third period at home. They were 2:04 away from capturing only their second victory of the season until John Carter ruined it for the moment to deadlock it at 17:56. 56 seconds for regulation. Face-off outside the Skipjack line. From the face-off, Wade Campbell on left wing at center, stroked it in behind the Baltimore goal. Bannerman will hold for Hoover. Tim Hoover wrapped it off the right wing boards, all the way down ice, right to the goaltender. Romano nullifying icing, leaving behind the goal for Cote, rounding the net. Cote up on right wing at center for Greg Johnson at the Baltimore line. Checked on the defense by Hoover, trailing as Reed, muscling it into the corner. Hoover will scrape it off the boards. Checked by Reed. C-side of the goal by Hall, right in front for Johnston. Johnston fired, blocked by Hoover fearlessly. Contained on the right point by Cote, taken away by Toomey. Toomey at center for Perkins over the main line, right in front for Seguin with a shot. Oh, a scintillating save by Romano, who saves the day for the Mariners. No further play. Boy Perkins, Toomey, and Steve Seguin streamed three abreast very majestically over the main line. And it was Seguin, and he really fired a blistering shot. And Romano very flamboyantly speared it, falling backwards in the crease. 18 seconds remaining. Face-off circle left to the former Skipjack goaltender, who really saved the night for the Mariners there, and perhaps prolonged this one to a 5-minute overtime. Perkins and Johnston on the face-off, all ready to go, waiting for the linesman. Won by Perkins, top of the circle. Seguin snapped the shot. It struck Perkins as he was being sprawled in front by Johnston. Controlled on the main left boards by Blum. Clearing center circle. Gagne will control it, banking it off the boards in behind the main goal. Blum chased it in the corner by Perkins. Perkins steals, centers it, blocked by Johnston at the horn. And we will head into overtime for the 4th time this season and the 3rd time at home as far as the Skipjacks are concerned. The lone goal in the period came late at 17:56. John Carter in the left circle rattled home his tie through 5 minutes. It stays a tie. From the faceoff, Gagne on the right point. He holds it in for Alfie Turcotte. Now Turcotte taken down by Lamb, poked to center by Camazola. Gagne poked it back to the main line, controlled by Blum. Blum's pass stopped at center by Hoover over the main line on right wing for Shedden with a shot. Kicked up by Romano as Shedden really ripped one. Covering beyond the goal, Johnston. He ladles it up on left wing at his own line for Camazola. Across on right wing at center for Lamb over the Baltimore line. Right in front for Blum with a shot. Bannerman the save. And he pounces on it with both knees. No further play. As that time, John Blum, acting as the trailer, he was lurking on the periphery, and he just suddenly came out of nowhere, and he was right in on top of Bannerman, but Bannerman had those pads together and squeezed it. Faceoff will be left of him in the Jacks goal. 39 seconds, have elapsed at overtime. It's a 2-2 tie. It'll be Harlow and Nienhuis on the faceoff deep in Baltimore territory. Maine would seem to have the momentum here, generated on the late goal by Carter to tie it and force the extra session. Won by Nienhuis, collected on the right point by Cote, sailing it in behind the goal. Trying to center that one was Camazola. He fanned on it, but dug out behind the goal by Nienhuis. He was toppled by Meitner, who will control it. Meitner slipped it up on left wing at his own line for Harlow. In the middle at center for Meitner. Checked from behind by Reed. Now controlled in the main zone by Taylor Hall. Hall springs to center. Over the Baltimore line, top of the right circle. Shooting! Bannerman the save, and almost handcuffed him. Puck into the corner. Digging it out right side, Nienhuis. Behind the goal for Reed. Right in front for Nienhuis. Blocked beautifully by Harlow. Stepping in front of Nienhuis to backhand to center zone. Cordell Dunbar on left wing returns it behind the goal. Tracked down by Richer. Now Stefan Richer at his own line for Lomo, guiding it to center zone. John Blum on left wing, wrapped it right back behind the Jacks goal, Maine dominating overtime. Bannerman himself flings it around the left wing boards for Harlow, or it's Meitner, and Meitner drove it to the main line, where Dunbar on the left defense steers it back into Baltimore territory. Richer up the right boards for Lomo. Byron Lomo curls back in front of the goal. Angles it up on left wing for Meitner at center, and eludes him. Controlled by the Mariners, Blake Wesley at the Baltimore line. His pass into the corner, halted by Byron Lomo, sailing into the line. Wesley knocked it down left point, checked by Perkins. Perkins sends Toomey exploding to center over the main line. Left circle, the Toomey shot deflected behind the goal by Cote. Dug out in the right corner by Perkins. He was crunched, though, by Wesley robustly. And covering behind the goal for the Mariners is Johnston. Greg Johnson just fires it down ice on goal. Scooped up by Bannerman. Angling it up on right wing for Bob Kennedy, his own line. Kennedy up the boards at center for Seguin, who drove it in behind the goal. 2:30 for overtime. Cradled behind the goal by Cote. Leading on left wing at his own line for John Carter. Scurrying to center with the Baltimore line. The drop pass for Nienhuis. His shot deflected over top of the goal by Armstrong, but contained on the right point by Blum with a shot. Bannerman caught it. He sails it up on right wing at his own line for Seguin. Now Steve Seguin to center. Barrels in over the main line. He chugs into the corner. Checked by Blum. Dug out along the boards, though, by Seguin. Now Seguin centers it behind Gagne, who was pouring in from the point to center zone. But Seguin, with a rapid recovery at center, drove it in behind the goal. Covering up is Blum. Now John Blum at his own line for Lamb on right wing at center for Beraldo. Over the ball to the war line, centering it, blocked in front by Gagne. He turned it over to Beraldo. Beraldo pulls up in the left wing quarter. Thumped by Shedden. Corralled on the right boards by Perkins. 1:35 left. And Terry Perkins drove it to the main line. Tracked down by Cote across the left wing at center for Dunbar. Through his legs for Gagne, who sends it skimming back inside the main zone. Covering up Cote, his pass halted at the line by Gagne. Right circle for Turcotte with a shot. Romano the save. The rebound in front, controlled by Hall. They're three abreast. Hall at center for Reed over the Baltimore line. Right circle. Reed fired. Oh, Bannerman a chest high save, and he deflects it off his right shoulder over the glass into the crowd. No further play. 1:10 left in overtime. Jacks 2, Maine 2. Let's pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Baltimore Skipjacks Hockey Network.
Season ticket holders may also present their VIP cards anytime and receive a free drink with any purchase. At Picadillo's Pizzeria, 2 North Howard Street, the Skipjacks.
Terry Ficcarelli rejoining you live from the Baltimore Arena. 1:10 for overtime. Mariners have 3 shots at overtime. The Jacks have 2, and we're deadlocked. It's a 2-2 stalemate. Face-off circle left of Murray Bannerman, and both goaltenders, when tested in overtime, have been superlative. Now I believe Skipjacks coach Gene Ubriaco is exercising his 30-second timeout here at overtime.
Timeout, Skipjacks.
1:10 remaining. Stay tuned for the Skipjacks post-game show right after tonight's action. And again, we want to remind you that next Tuesday night, the Skipjacks will be singing Christmas carols. That'll be next Tuesday night at 7:30 at the Hunt Valley Ball in Cockeysville. Will be directed by Mr. Tom Hall, conductor of the Baltimore Choral Arts Society. And our accompanies will be Lynn Green from the Shenandoah Music Conservatory, the Baltimore Brass Trio, and the Baltimore Skipjacks cheerleaders, better known as the First Mates, will be our warm-up act. The Skipjacks singing Christmas carols next Tuesday night, 7:30, Hunt Valley Ball in Cockeysville. And don't forget, for that special someone on your Christmas shopping list, there are now Skipjacks Christmas gift certificates. Skipjacks Christmas gift certificates make excellent stocking stuffers on Christmas morning. For more information, contact the Jacks at 727-0703 or look for the Skipjacks Christmas gift certificate display here at the Baltimore Arena. All ready to go. Circle left of Bannerman, which is where the face-off will brew and ensue with 1:10 for overtime. Turcotte and Nienhuis will be the principals. Alain Cote is the triggerman arc of the circle over Nienhuis' left shoulder. He's the lone point man for Maine. Sticks come down. One by Turcotte behind the goal for James, directing it around the boards on the left side, but Johnston is there waiting for it. To the left point for Campbell with a shot, and that was wide. The rebound in front, corralled by Vargas with a minute left. Vargas to center. Now Vargas thunders in over the main line, left circle, right in on goal, and Romanos dove out and knocked it away for Nienhuis. Now Craig Nienhuis to center. Nienhuis zooming in over the Baltimore line, left circle, the sharp angle shot is way wide. Rebound caroms around the Baltimore backboards, all the way to the right side for Hall with a centering pass, blocked in front by Richer, and the Jacks are away. Richer at center. He sends Ernie Vargas chugging in after it behind the main goal. Vargas deep in the left corner, right in front for Shedden, right through his legs. He was all alone in front, and Maine has a break. Nienhuis at center of the Baltimore line for Reed, who's right in on goal. Great save, Bannerman. Rebound in front of an open net. Swept away by the Skipjacks defense with Bannerman making a hasty retreat to the crease. There's a flesh pile 5 feet in front of the crease, and they're all Skipjacks, and somewhere underneath that pile is the puck, and it's underneath Stefan Richer. Bannerman, in an adventuresome spirit, charged out to seal the angle as the Jacks were trapped on the attack with the centering pass right through the legs of Shedden, who was left uncovered in front, and Wayne Gagne from the right point was also pouring in anxious anticipation on the offensive attack, and the Jacks were really trapped. And Maine sprung out 3 abreast. 13 seconds. 13 seconds for overtime. Murray Bannerman has been superlative again tonight in the Skipjack goal. I'll tell you, he really rescued his mates from dire straits on that last very imposing Maine rush. It'll be Turcotte and Nienhuis on the faceoff again. Circle left of Bannerman. A monumental faceoff for the Jacks. All ready to go. Waiting for the linesman. Still waiting. Lomo and Campbell jockeying for position in front. Cote, the lone point man. One by Nienhuis. Center point for Cote. Left circle for Carter. The shot was blocked by Hoover and driven to the main line by Harlow. Cote will sail it down ice, and this hockey game will end in a tie. The horn sounds. The Skipjacks don't win. They come within 2 minutes and 4 seconds of earning their second victory of the season. Instead, they'll settle for their 4th